transportation. Africa produces enough food to feed all Africans twice a year. It's just that 60% of the crop rots or is eaten by insects along the road. So being able to build roads, being able to warehouse, and using modern technology for that is vital. It's happening. I know, the young Africans are starting companies doing that. So you've got energy, you've got transportation, you've got financial services, banking becoming banked. I'm also involved with a company that is basically serving SMEs, and really I was invited 2 years ago to talk to the African heads of state, and I talked to them about SMEs. I really think that the missing link in their economic strategy is the development of SMEs. And I always say, if you want large companies, I don't know a large company that was not started by 2 people or 3 people, whether it's Microsoft or Apple or Google or...
We sometimes forget that.
Yes, so feeding SMEs, creating an environment where SMEs can prosper is very important. So having a financial services sector that is able to do that is key, and modern technology and digital technology allows you to do that.
So a quick close to this to making sure we manage risk for the future. If there was a quick call to action, what do you want it to be? What's that message you want to just send off before we close up?
Well, I always go back to science education. Invest in believing the human mind, the human condition, and invest in people, and it can never go wrong.
Okay, we leave it there. It's been an absolute delight to have you here, and I'm just sure everybody really enjoyed you sharing your
to John and also to Edna. So we heard there from John Tian quoting Warren Buffett about when the tide goes down, you see who doesn't have their trunks on. To make that a little less gender specific, you don't see how you see who doesn't have their swimsuits on. That of course applies to the world of crypto, some big names we've seen going down recently. And our next panel is going to be asking crypto, where do we go from here? I'm going to bring to the stage in just a moment our panelists, the co-founder and CEO of MoonPay, Ivan Soto Wright, the vice chairman of the CTH Group and Atlas Technology, Dr. Wong Miller, the global head of legal and compliance for Hashdex, Nicole Descent, the CEO of Galaxy Digital, Michael Novogratz, and our moderator, the founder of Lab 22C, Saeed Bishop. Please.
Straddling both cultures. I'll do a quick bit of cultural translation for everyone who might be visiting us here from Saudi. In Miami, our version of Yalla is Dale. So if you want to understand how to get things to move faster, you just have to say Dale. That's like our say Yalla. In the interest of time, we're going to move at that clip. And for today's panel, we're very excited that we have an esteemed lineup of subject matter experts and leaders in the field of crypto and Bitcoin and blockchain. And now more than ever, it's a great time to explore this issue topic of where do we go from here with crypto? And if we were having this conversation a year ago, it would be flooded with a sense of laser-eyed fanaticism, but we've now entered in a much more sobering reality, and we're going to be exploring a little bit from each one of our panelists to understand where do we ultimately go from here. And I want to start with you, Mike, because you are somebody that has led in many, many regards in the field of blockchain and crypto, and you have a deep experience from the world of traditional finance. And I've heard you speak in multiple occasions about this notion of trust and where we are in the world with respect to deficits of trust. And I think that if we want to begin a thoughtful conversation about crypto and where we go from here, I'd love to get your sense about how can trust be restored with respect to the crypto space, with institutional investors, with retail?
Well, thank you. Listen, in some ways this is the best of times and it's the worst of times for crypto. in a lot of ways, this is crypto's moment, right? We've just had a banking crisis in the United States. Right? Satoshi started the Bitcoin white paper because he saw populism coming. He didn't trust the governments could control themselves, and they would spend and spend and debase fiat currency. And we just had an episode where we looked around and we're like, oh my goodness, our regional banks, our money center banks, all have been on this orgy of debt, right? Low interest rates for too long. There's trillions of dollars, not billions, trillions of dollars of bad debt out there, of people that financed, 5-year, 6-year, 10-year, 2% paper, and now being charged 5%. And so, how are we going to get out of that? We're going to get out of that by, you saw the Fed's balance sheet went straight right back up. So all of the quantitative easing gets raised in a week. Quantitative tightening gets raised in a week. And so, in lots of ways, this is the moment. On the other hand, our industry didn't comport itself very well. We had Sam Bankman-Fried and 5 or 6 other horrible examples of greed, fraud, stupid risk management. And so now we're under assault from the U.S. government, right? The Biden administration, the Democratic Party, really doesn't like crypto. Partly because Sam Bankman-Fried was Joe Biden's biggest donor, and he was the biggest donor of the Democratic Party, and he was engaged in a really intimate way with the SEC and the CFTC. And so Democrats have egg all over their face and feel, well, I gotta run from this. And, there's a small cabal, Elizabeth Warren, Sherrod Brown, Gary Gensler, that really are trying to, they call it Operation Choke Point, crush crypto. It's a terrible decision for the United States, right? Because what we're seeing overseas, Abu Dhabi is a really friendly regime. Hong Kong, believe it or not, is coming. And there's nothing that's happening in the world today, certainly in the United States and a lot of the West, that makes people want to trust governments more. And so it's almost like when they banned wrestling from the Olympics, I remember I was on TV and I was like, I can't think of anything more stupid than picking a fight with 700,000 wrestlers. You're picking a fight with a crypto community that loves this technology, that believes in it almost with religious fervor. That's resilient as can be. And so I'm bullish as can be, mostly because, not because all the institutions are going to come in, that's going to slow down, but because the people that started this revolution are re-energized.
Thanks so much, Mike. And you touched a lot about kind of the R word, which I think, Nicole, you could give us some guidance around, which is, what does all of this mean with respect to regulatory regimes? Because there's no doubt that the moment of reckoning is upon us. Mike mentioned a number of less than transparent actors, if we want to use the sort of polite way of describing it. And the government forces, both domestically here in the United States and around the world, are looking with a very, very cautious eye and finally ready to jump into action. So you've got some deep insight on this, given your background, both in governmental spaces and also the work that you currently do at Hashdex. Give us a little bit of crystal ball. Do we see actual regulatory action here in the United States in 2023? And what are we going to see a little bit further down the road?
Sounds good. Well, first, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much. Well, that's a million-dollar question, right? It's very difficult to see. I think despite of all the efforts that international bodies are doing for harmonized regulation around crypto, we won't see this in the near future. So we are seeing here and there a lot of, important movements towards regulation. I think the first, more serious and robust movement that we are seeing, of course, is in Europe with MiCA, right? Markets and crypto assets derivative, which is the most robust regulation. And I think Europe is trying to regulate, as they've done in the past with GDPR as a default. So all the world, anyone that wants to trade and do business with Europe will have to comply with that until Q4 of 2024. But for 23 and for all the other countries and for firms that don't want to be complying with MICA, which will be hard for most of the firms, right? They will have to adopt their internal policies, capital requirements, depending on the license. There are three categories of different tokens, right? But for most of the world, what we are seeing right now is the virtual asset service provider's license, like the money service business that we have in the US, authorized by FinCEN, which is a license that only seeks to control the AML process and know your client, which is very important. And for most of the exchanges that we are seeing this huge problem happens. I'm not saying that with the license the problem won't happen, because I don't think that bad actors are driven by regulation. They would do the same thing with the regulation that we see in the traditional financial markets, a lot of scandals and schemes with regulation. But I think definitely FTX and Celsius maybe won't have this effect, that huge effect, if they were licensed, because there will be maybe more protections for investors. Although unfortunately, bad actors and people that don't comply with their own rules and regulations, we will see always in whatever market. So I think vast regulation will be a trend. It is already, a lot of financial centers. Brazil also, I'm from Brazil, and we just passed our vast regulation last year. So most of the countries are doing this. And on the other hand, we have the CBDC, which is actually not crypto, but most of the countries and the US are lagging behind. I think the CBDC project, as well as the same thing for crypto, I think US is lagging behind in terms of regulation.
So there's a lot on deck, and one of the sectors that definitely is in search of clarity are retail investors. And Ivan, you built a phenomenal business with MoonPay. We're very proud that we've done so right here in a great city of Miami, part of Mayor Suarez's vision for Miami as the capital of capital. But the world has obviously changed dramatically for a lot of people that are on your platform, that are using services like MoonPay, and you're really focused at the application layer. So what does the chatter look like in the subreddits and in other spaces that are adjacent to the work that you and your team have built right now?
Yeah, so first off, I take a really long-term view for this industry, right? I got involved because I really believe in this technology, and I believe in the promise that you should be able to own and control your identity, your data, your property, and your money. Really central to the theme of crypto is ownership. And what's really powerful is anyone with internet connection, anywhere in the world, crypto comes from the word cryptography. There's a private key that underpins your public wallet, and anyone can now receive value anywhere in the world. That's a revolution. And there's billions of people around the world that don't have access to banking, full stop. And so when I started the business, it was really around trying to focus on a very simple problem, which was there are going to be these wallets. We need to build backwards compatibility to the existing financial system. So we connected to legacy networks like Visa, MasterCard. We connect to the existing banking system, but we make it easy for you to top up your digital wallet. This digital economy is not stopping, it is growing, right? Every single year you're seeing actually 20% developers, 20% of increase in developers year on year coming into this industry. So you have to look at that trend. When you look at the market capitalization, I think it is a little bit myopic, right? If you look at it, it's cyclical, right? And it's also driven by interest rates. I think Mike touched on, we're in a very important seminal moment for our industry right now. I think one of the most interesting things that we've seen in the last couple of weeks is with the softening on the banking sector side, you're starting to see a little bit of a decoupling, right? And that's what we've been looking for a long period of time. Is this truly an asset class that can be uncorrelated and be an overall diversifier, which I think in turn will bring institutional adoption, institutional interest into the space. But where I'm focused is really, how do we make the user experience better? Like, how do we make this so my mom can use it, my grandma can use it? How do we make it easy for people to have it have an impact in everyday life? And I think, when I think about crypto in some ways, I also think we maybe got the sequencing wrong a little bit, right? We started with the money aspect and using crypto as a form of money in many different places in the world. and trying to get people here. If I got a show of hands from people in this audience that have used digital currency, within the last week, you probably have a small number of hands. But in a developing country where they don't have a currency system that's necessarily working, you are seeing adoption in those cases. But what I think is really interesting is you can program anything into these assets. This is like a new file format that's built on blockchains. I think it's a no-brainer that in the future, more and more transactions are going to be settling across these different blockchains. And now it's around what is the content that people are going to move, what are the different forms of value that people are going to move. And so that's where a lot of my time and attention has been focused around what are these new forms of content. I think music will eventually end up in this place, art, digital fashion, all these brands at this point are starting to experiment. We're in the kind of early innovator to early adopter phase of people starting to leverage this technology. But the biggest brands, every week you're seeing a new headline around new brands entering the space. Some will be successful, some won't be successful, just like what you saw with the early internet.
I'd love to jump from that, Ivan, about the entrance of the big brands to what is this actually looking like right now on the investor side? Dr. Yang, you've got a lengthy experience in capital markets, and right now you're also working at the infrastructure layer and with respect to a lot of the mining investments that you've made. So when we think about the state of crypto right now, what does it look like from your vantage point, from investors and people who are large deployers of capital, and then also what's happening at the infrastructure layer? Are people building out new mining assets? Or what's happening? What do you see?
Yeah, first I want to build on what I said earlier. This is a moment for crypto. We're just at the beginning. And I see the convergence of blockchain, crypto with AI, AGI, for three reasons. As we all talk about the training networks, the most important thing is the data integrity. So otherwise you've got the in, got the out, so blockchain can provide a solution. And two, once you have that network trained, the AI can be super powerful. Can write like you, talk like you, with our deepfake technology today, can really be you. So therefore, this digital identity, digital ownership is absolutely critical going forward. And third, going forward, when all these different models, AI models, interact with each other, transact with each other, it has to be some sort of digital currency. Because I cannot imagine all those machines talking to each other using fiat money. The reason for that is, our monetary policy or our economic models in terms of marginal cost or labor cost, inflation, doesn't mean anything to those machines. So it has to be some sort of digital currency. So I think we're just at the really, really beginning to see this huge adoption of crypto going forward. But the key going forward, I think, is to build investable infrastructure. And all three layers, that physical layer, protocol layer, as well as a complex layer.
So I think that that's a great segue, given the expertise we have on the panel, to open up the floor for any questions that we might have. We've got great insights that are represented across a lot of different sectors here. Do we have any questions from the floor? I know that. Great. So I think we're a little bit late on time. I want to thank our panelists for giving us some quick insights on the state of crypto, and appreciate all of you. So thank you all.
And thank you to you, the audience, for staying with us. You're already out the door, I can see it. I want to tell you, come back for 1:30, when we will be getting our program absolutely sharp right then. Lunch is served downstairs on the second floor lounge. So see you back here in the plenary hall at 1:30 sharp.